Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Okay, for those of us really trying to stay on top of mental well-being research, there's this one nutrient that keeps topping up, right? Omega-3 EPA. We all feel it. Life moves incredibly fast these days. There's stress, there's pressure, just constant emotional ups and downs, and you see the rising rates of anxiety, mood disorders. It makes sense. People are looking for, natural ways, science-backed ways to support their brain health.
Got it, okay.
And omega-3s, well, lots of people know them for heart health. That's pretty common knowledge. But today in this deep dive, we're going to uncover why one specific type, EPA, that's Eicosapentaenoic Acid, why that one seems particularly powerful for your brain for emotional balance. So our mission today, really unpack what makes EPA different. How exactly does it help regulate mood, reduce depressive symptoms, and maybe understand why this nutrient could be, well, a key piece of the puzzle for your emotional health. Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, to grasping a vital part of mental well-being.
And I think it's crucial right up front to emphasize this is an essential fat. Your body just cannot make EPA on its own, period. You have to get it from diet or supplements, which really highlights how fundamental it is for how we feel, how we think, how we cope with everything life throws at us.
Right. So just think about that idea for a second. What if one nutrient, a simple, healthy fat, could actually help lift your mood, clear your head, maybe even lower your depression risk? Science is really pointing towards omega-3 EPA. Now, we generally talk about three main omega-3s, don't we? There's EPA, there's DHA, and ALA. But here's the thing, and this is important. They're definitely not all the same, not interchangeable at all.
Exactly. That's a critical distinction. When you break them down, EPA, well, that's the one most strongly linked to better mood, better mental clarity.
Yeah.
It actively works on reducing inflammation in the brain, which is a huge factor we'll get into. And it supports those key mood chemicals, serotonin, dopamine. There was this major meta-analysis, actually, in molecular psychiatry. It concluded EPA was significantly more effective than DHA for depression symptoms, especially, and this is key, when the supplement had more than 60% EPA. That specific detail is really telling for mood support.
Okay, 60% EPA, that's a specific marker.
Yes. Now, DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, is absolutely vital for building and protecting brain cells. Think structure, think development, like during pregnancy or childhood, super important then. But for improving mood in adults, DHA on its own just doesn't seem to have the same punch as EPA. Most studies show it works best with EPA. And then you've got ALA, alpha-linolenic acid. That's your plant-based one, flax seeds, chia, walnuts. The big challenge with ALA is, well, the body is really inefficient at converting it into EPA or DHA. We're talking less than 10% conversion, often much lower. So realistically, if significant mental health benefits are your goal, relying just on ALA sources, it's probably not going to get you there.
That really clears things up. It sounds like there's a real hierarchy for mood. So EPA is the standout. It gets right to the root of these mood issues, doesn't it? Tackling brain inflammation, improving how brain cells talk to each other, supporting those vital mood chemicals. So for anyone out there dealing with, say, low mood or that persistent brain fog or just feeling emotionally unstable, EPA sounds like the smartest omega-3 choice based on the science we have.
It really does. And it's fascinating when you dig into how EPA actually does this on a cellular level. It's not just passively floating around. It's actively reshaping the brain's environment to improve mood, reduce anxiety, bring back some stability. Okay, so first big mechanism, reducing inflammation in the brain. This is huge. We now know there's a strong link between chronic, low-grade inflammation and things like major depressive disorder or other mood problems. You often see higher levels of inflammatory markers like IL-6 or CRP in people with depression.
Right. That connection is becoming so much clearer in the research.
It is. And EPA acts almost like a potent anti-inflammatory agent specifically for the brain. It helps calm down those overactive immune responses. Remember that trial in molecular psychiatry showed EPA-rich supplements really helped depressive symptoms, especially in people who already had high inflammation levels. DHA alone didn't do that.
Wow, okay.
And how it works basically is that EPA competes with another type of fat, an omega-6 called arachidonic acid, which tends to promote inflammation. EPA essentially elbows it out of the way, shifting the balance towards producing anti-inflammatory compounds instead.
So it's actively changing the body's chemistry towards being less inflamed?
Exactly. Second, EPA has a powerful role in modulating neurotransmitters, Those are your brain's chemical messengers. We're talking serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, the big ones tied directly to mood, motivation, stress resilience. EPA seems to enhance serotonin release and make the receptors for serotonin more sensitive, particularly in key brain areas like the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus.
Which are critical for mood and thinking.
Absolutely. It also supports dopamine pathways, which can boost motivation and how we perceive rewards things, often blunted in depression. And just by improving the health and fluidity of the membranes around brain cells, it helps stabilize mood overall. It makes those connections stronger, more reliable. There was a study in brain, behavior, and immunity that directly showed EPA boosting serotonin signaling, partly by reducing that neuroinflammation we talked about, and partly by improving membrane fluidity. It creates a better environment for those signals.
Okay, inflammation down, neurotransmitters working better. What's the third piece?
The third piece is improving brain cell communication itself. Healthy brain function depends on neurons talking to each other efficiently. EPA gets incorporated into the membranes surrounding these neurons, making them more fluid and flexible. Think of it like lubricating the communication lines.
Making the signals travel more smoothly.
Precisely. This allows for faster signal transmission. But it also supports neuroplasticity. That's the brain's amazing ability to adapt, change, and form new connections. And it promotes the integrity of synapses, the actual junctions where communication happens, especially in areas like the hippocampus, which is vital for emotion and memory. Research, I think was in the Journal of Lipid Research, showed that membranes enriched with EPA lead to better synaptic signaling. And crucially, they make the cells more resilient against stress and oxidative damage.
Okay, so putting it all together, you're calming inflammation, you're fine-tuning the mood chemicals, and you're making the communication lines between brain cells work better. The combined effect sounds like clearer thinking, more stable mood, better stress response, all fundamental for emotional well-being. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. From your expert view, what stands out? What's maybe the most surprising or least understood part of how EPA works that you think people should really get?
Well, I think what's often misunderstood or maybe underappreciated is this difference between EPA and DHA. They're both essential, yes, both good for the brain overall, but they really do have distinct jobs. DHA is primarily structural. It's like the bricks and mortar for brain cells, vital for building and protection, especially early on.
The building block.
Exactly. But EPA, it seems to have a much more active, dynamic role when it comes to regulating mood right now in adults. It's directly influencing those signaling pathways involved in mood disorders, actively tweaking the neurotransmitters we just discussed. That translational psychiatry meta-analysis really drove this home. It found supplements with higher EPA that 60% or more mark were significantly better for improving mood than DHA alone, or formulas with less EPA.
That's such a practical point. It means if someone is struggling specifically with depression or low mood, just grabbing any old fish oil might not be the best strategy. They might need to look specifically for that higher EPA content. That seems really important.
It is. It suggests a more targeted approach is needed for mood.
So let's talk practicalities. Where do people get this?
Good question. The best dietary sources are definitely those cold water fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring, anchovies, the usual suspects. SM mash fish, sometimes they call them.
Right.
But to get the therapeutic doses often used in studies for mood, many people find they need supplements. And if you go that route, you really want to look for fish oil formulas that specify a high EPA content, ideally that 60% or more we talked about.
And for vegans?
It's trickier, but getting better. Algae oil is the source. Traditionally, algae oil is much richer in DHA. However, some companies are now cultivating specific algae strains to produce oil with higher EPA content. So you need to check the labels carefully.
Okay. And what kind of dose are we talking about for mood support?
For targeting mood, clinical studies often use doses in the range of 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of EPA specifically per day, especially if someone is actively experiencing depressive symptoms.
1 to 2 grams of actual EPA.
Got it. And the clinical link between EPA levels and depression itself, that seems pretty solid now. It does. Consistently, studies find that people experiencing depression tend to have lower levels of omega-3s, and particularly lower EPA, in their blood, and even in brain tissue samples.
Wow.
And importantly, supplementing with EPA has been linked not just to improvement, but sometimes faster improvement in mood, even when people are already taking antidepressant medication. There was a significant trial, I believe, in the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry looking at treatment-resistant depression. Adding EPA showed noticeable benefits.
That's huge for people who feel stuck. So thinking about who could benefit, it sounds like quite a wide range of people.
I think so. Definitely individuals dealing with chronic stress, maybe feeling emotionally exhausted.
Yeah, burnout is so common.
Absolutely. Also, people with diagnosed depression or just persistent low mood, those with a family history of mood disorders might want to be proactive. And frankly, almost anyone eating a standard Western diet, which is typically quite low in omega-3s, especially EPA and DHA, compared to omega-6s.
It's probably most of us, unfortunately.
It is, unfortunately. So improving that balance could be beneficial for general emotional resilience, too.
Okay, so if someone decides, right, I want to try an EPA supplement, what should they look for on the label? You mentioned the EPA ratio.
Yes, definitely prioritize that high EPA to DHA ratio, aiming for at least 60% EPA if mood is the main goal. Also, crucially, look for third-party testing. This verifies the purity that it's free from heavy metals like mercury PCBs and confirms the actual amount of EPA and DHA matches the label.
That's essential for safety and effectiveness.
Absolutely. And one more thing. Opt for the triglyceride form of fish oil, if possible. It seems to be better absorbed by the body compared to the ethyl ester form, which is sometimes used in cheaper supplements.
Triglyceride form. Okay, good tip.
So you might start with a pure EPA supplement, or at least a balanced fish oil that clearly states a high EPA content, especially if mood and mental clarity are your top priorities.
We've covered a lot of ground here, really digging into the brain science, so let's bring it back home. What does this all mean for you, the listener? What are the practical steps someone might actually think about taking away from this deep dive?
I think the main takeaway for me is that omega-3 EPA is clearly way more than just for heart health. It's emerging as a really potent, science-backed mood stabilizer. We've seen how it works, lowering that brain inflammation, modulating key neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. It's quite targeted.
It really is, and it offers a natural pathway, and an effective one, to support your emotional well-being. It's another tool in the toolkit.
Definitely. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with something to mull over. We heard that many people just don't eat enough fatty fish regularly to get those therapeutic EPA levels we talked about, which means supplements often become necessary to see real mood benefits. And while improvements are often seen within, say, 4 to 12 weeks, remember that finding that EPA can actually enhance the effectiveness of antidepressants.
Yes, that synergy is very interesting. Right. So EPA isn't just a standalone supplement. It seems like it could be a potential partner for your brain health, maybe even working alongside other treatments. What might that suggest about how we should think about more integrated, holistic approaches to mental health going forward? So if you find yourself navigating ongoing stress or depression, or even just that feeling of low energy and brain fog, maybe it's time to consider exploring EPA. It could be a really valuable addition to your daily routine for supporting your mental and emotional health.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.